Something feels off, but you can't quite say what. It's not that things are going badly. Work is fine, your body is fine, your family is fine. And yet, deep in your chest, there's this low, constant hum of unease. You lie down at night, and sleep won't come. Morning arrives, but the heaviness doesn't lift. Have you ever had nights like that? You try to trace it. What exactly am I worried about? But the words never quite come. A vague worry about the future. A vague sense that something isn't right. But what exactly? Even you can't say. And the longer it goes on, the more exhausting it becomes. Anxiety is a strange thing. When it has a clear shape, you can face it. But when it stays shapeless, it just clings. Like something lurking in the dark that you can't bring yourself to check on. Today, I'd like to look at that feeling together and find some answers in words spoken 2,500 years ago. A student once asked me why she couldn't simply decide to stop worrying, and I asked her to show me the shape of her worry, to point to it like pointing at a tree. She sat in silence for a long time, then laughed, because of course she couldn't. The Buddha taught that this formlessness is precisely where suffering takes root. We fight against shadows instead of light. What if, instead of trying to name the nameless, we simply turn toward it with curiosity, the way you'd hold your hand over a candle flame to feel its warmth? Among the words the Buddha left behind, there is a collection of verses known as the Dhammapada, which means path of truth. Of all his teachings, these verses are among the most accessible, and yet the most profound. The very first verse reads like this: "The mind is the forerunner of all actions. The mind is chief, and they are mind-made. If one speaks or acts with a troubled mind, suffering follows, as the wheel follows the hoof of an ox." These were the words the Buddha chose to place first. Of everything he could have said, he began here. Everything starts in the mind. Among his disciples, a question once arose during their travels. Where do fear and anxiety come from? They wondered. They had met people along the road who suffered nightly from unnamed dread. The village elders said it was evil spirits. Others said it was punishment from a past life. Everyone pointed outward, to something beyond themselves. The Buddha sat quietly for a moment, looking up at the night sky. Then he spoke, gently but clearly. "Do not look outside. The fire of fear is burning within your own mind." A disciple asked, "Then how do we put it out?" The Buddha replied, "Before you try to put it out, look at it. See what it is burning. If you try to extinguish something you cannot see, it will only catch fire somewhere else. Only the one who truly looks will learn how to tend the flame." This is the heart of that first verse. The mind comes first. What causes us suffering is not what happens to us, but how our mind responds to what happens. Anxiety does not arrive from the outside, it is born from within. The Buddha said this 2,500 years ago. A merchant once came to the Buddha in great distress, having lost his entire fortune in a storm at sea. "My life is ruined," he cried, describing the shipwreck in vivid detail. But the Buddha asked him a simple question. "Tell me, which caused you more suffering, the storm itself, or the story your mind has been telling you about what the storm means?" The merchant fell silent, realizing that while the waves had destroyed his cargo, it was his thoughts about ruin and worthlessness that had drowned his spirit. Let's sit with that phrase a little longer. The mind is the forerunner. The same event can happen to two people, and they will feel it completely differently. Suppose you make a mistake at work. One person spirals. "Why do I keep doing this? My boss will be furious. Everyone will think less of me. I'm not sure I can keep going like this." The anxiety swells and swells. Another person thinks, "That was a mistake. I'll apologize and do better next time," and moves on without carrying it for days. The event is identical. The inner response is completely different. When the Buddha said the mind is the forerunner of all things, this is exactly what he meant. Suffering is not made by circumstances. It is made by the mind's relationship to those circumstances. In Buddhist thought, there is a concept sometimes translated as mind only, the idea that our experience of the world is shaped by the mind itself. This isn't a call to think positively and pretend everything is fine. It means something more practical. Observing your own mind is the first step toward freeing yourself from suffering. So what does it mean to see anxiety clearly? It means that when anxiety rises, instead of running from it or trying to push it away, you pause and ask, "What exactly am I anxious about right now?" You take one step back and you look. Anxiety tends to come in a few different forms. There's the anxiety that comes from regret about the past, something you said, something you did. There's the anxiety that comes from fear of what hasn't happened yet, something that might go wrong. And there's the anxiety rooted in self-doubt, a quiet, persistent feeling that you are not enough. These may feel similar on the surface, but their roots are entirely different. To borrow the Buddha's image, you cannot put out a fire if you don't know where it is or what kind of fire it is. First you look. What kind of anxiety is this? That question, that clear-eyed looking, is where the quieting of the heart begins. When you can name what you see, the darkness loses its power. What felt like something monstrous in the dark turns out in the light to be only a shadow. So how do we actually do this in the middle of an ordinary life? Let's think through it together. When anxiety is keeping you awake at night, try reaching for a pen and paper. Write down whatever comes. What am I anxious about right now? When we leave anxiety swirling in our heads, it keeps shifting shape and growing. But something happens when you write it down. The edges appear. Ah, these are the two things weighing on me. In the language of the Dhammapada, this is the act of seeing the mind. Once you've written it down, ask yourself this: is this something that is already happening, or something that hasn't happened yet? Most of the time, the anxiety that robs us of sleep is about what hasn't happened yet. Whether things will go well at work next month, whether your children will turn out okay, whether there will be enough money in old age. These are all fears about a future that doesn't exist yet. The Buddha, in many different forms across his teachings, said something like this: do not chase the past, do not wait for the future. Look clearly at this moment, right here. This isn't a warning against planning ahead, it's an invitation to focus on what you can actually do, now. If you're anxious about work, ask, what is one thing I can do today? If you're anxious about your children, ask, what is one thing I can offer them today? If old age worries you, ask, is there one small thing I can do for my body or my peace of mind today? It doesn't have to be big. Turning your attention toward one small, present action slowly begins to change the shape of anxiety. One more thing, when anxiety rises, try asking yourself, is this actually true? When you feel certain that if I fail, everyone will laugh at me, is that really true? When you feel that no one needs me, is that actually a fact? Anxiety often feeds not on reality, but on stories the mind creates. And just as the Buddha said, the mind makes all things. That means the mind also has the power to examine what it has made, gently and honestly. If there is one thing I hope stays with you today, it's this: anxiety is not your enemy. The fact that you feel anxious means you are alive. It means there is something you care about, something you want to protect. That is deeply, beautifully human. The Buddha never said, don't feel anxious. He said, look at it. Because when you truly look, the heart finds a little more room to breathe. Turning on the light in a dark room can feel frightening. But without the light, the darkness never ends. The small courage it takes to look at your anxiety, to ask, what is this really, is the act of lighting that flame. So tonight, if sleep won't come and the unease settles in, please don't try to chase the feeling away. Instead, ask it quietly. What are you exactly? What are you afraid of? That's all. You don't need the answer right away. The asking itself is already the beginning. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. I hope something here brought a little stillness to your heart. You may find that the anxiety loosens its grip simply because you stopped running from it. A mother who turns to face her child's tears rather than turning away finds that the child settles more quickly, not because the tears vanish, but because they are finally witnessed.